So what you need to do is, let's go back here. Okay, so what I'm going to say is I'm going to set this state in our local storage as a true or false alone. If the user is authenticated, set it as true. If the user is not authenticated, set it as false. That's what we are going to do now. So what we need to do is, so initially while getting the state itself, when the user is, because user might close the window and he will come back again. Okay, so what we need to do is, if the user comes back again, or set it, or what we are trying to say here, what I'm trying to say is I'm going to take the local storage information. So from the window get the local storage dot get item, get that particular item. What is that item? It's going to be auth. If the user is authenticated, absolutely it will be true. So get this authentication information only if that information is true. So we are trying to get the window.local storage.get authentication. So auth is equals to, if that is true, set it as true. If that is not true, then set it as false itself. Now if I refresh it, still it's showing because we don't have that authentication information. Okay, so instead of consoling.response over here, we know that now it's returning a promise, right? So here, now what we need to do is we need to get that promise dot then. Okay, and here we know that it's giving the user credential, user cred. I'm opening an arrow 6 function. Let me expand it a little bit so that you can see it clearly. Okay, an arrow 6 function, and if there is an user credentials, okay, set the auth state as true. Okay, if I save it, I click this, and you can see that now it's showing the to do option because our authentication state is changed and it's showing to do. If I refresh it, it's gone back. That's the issue we are facing. So now what we need to do is I need to set this window.local storage set. So we need to persist that information. So to do that, I'm going to say auth because that's what we are trying to get it from our state information. Where is that state? Over here, because that is what we are trying to get. So actually this should be top over here. I'll keep it over here. Okay, so over here auth, I'm going to set it as true. This should be inside here, true, as a string. Okay, save the changes. Cool. And here we are setting string, so this is also should be a string. Okay, and now you can see here it's changed successfully. Okay, because it set this value as true. You can verify, go to the application, and you can see that auth value is true over here in the local storage, browser local storage. You can see that auth value is true. Okay, now even if I'm refreshing it, it doesn't matter, it always loads that to do only. Okay, so why? It's because the local storage value is set authenticated. Later we need to remove this. Okay, if that user token, we need to validate the user, because we can't say that every single time the Firebase the user is the refresh token is valid, because that refresh token is valid for only 1 hour only. Within 1 hour that refresh token timing authentication time will change, so refresh token will become invalid. So we need to validate that refresh token every single time when the page gets refreshed. To do that, we are going to use the use effect hook, and this use effect will take 2 parameters. One is your function itself and another is your dependencies. Okay, so I'm just using this empty dependency because this, when the page gets refreshed, use effect will get rendered. Once the component everything is added inside your DOM, it's get rendered, and it should render only 1 time. That's why we are using this empty dependency inside this function. Okay, we are already having this Firebase authentication over here, so I'm going to verify that firebase.auth on state change. When authentication state changed, we need to get that user credential informations. Console.log user cred. You can see that still we're having that authentication and user information over here. Okay, so we don't need the complete user information, we just need to get the token. So if there is user cred, we will get that. If there is not, what we are going to say, we are going to say set auth information as false, and as well as we need to set the information, local storage information, to false. Okay, because if the refresh token is invalid, it will not you don't have the user credential. If there is no user credentials, then you should do this: set the authentication as false, set the local storage as false. Cool. Now if there is user credential, what do you need to do? We need to get that token first. User credential dot, to get the token alone, we having a method called get token, get id token. So get id token. So this will returns the what you can say, this will returns the state, a promise. Then I will get that token. This is the parameter name. I will get that token, and if there is a token, then I need to set the window. Okay, we need to set the local storage auth as true. We need to set the local storage auth as true. Okay, otherwise we will set it as a false over here. And now I'm just going to console.log that token over here. What is the token we are having here? Save the changes, and you can see that this is our authentication token. So this token needs to be passed to our backend, and we need to validate that our validate in the user token over there. Then we need to return back the user information, and we will set that user information over here. So every single time when the page get refreshed, if there is an authentication, if there is any changes in that, it will get the user credential. If there is a user credential, we'll get that ID, and we will, from here, we will pass this token to our backend, our API. We will validate that, we will get back that user information, and we will store it in the state over here. We can use it over here. Okay, so this is what we are trying to do now. So now we are having the refresh token in our hand, and rest everything is in our backend. So to do that, now what you need to do is you need to go back and minimize this. We need to initialize our server. So let me close everything from here, close all, and let it run. Let's open the terminal. Let me split it, this, let it get run and expand it, and this is running fine. Close. So let me expand it here. So I need to move on to the server folder, cd server. Now we are inside the server folder, cls. Okay, here I'm going to initialize the package. So yarn init. If you're using npm, run npm init. So this will ask you what is the server name you're going to say. I'm just going to say what name you can give. Let's say Firebase. Okay, version 1.0, description, validating JWT, Firebase JWT token, Firebase JWT token. Then entry point is going to be, what is the entry point you are going to set? Okay, in my case, I'm going to set it as app.js, and repository URL, no, author, myself. Then license, yes, private. No, I didn't go, I'm not giving anything. So package.json, now inside our server is created. Now you can see that license, author, app.js, everything is created now. So now what we need to do is let's open your package.json. So here now inside this package.json, we having the very few limited informations only. So we need to add few informations, like we need to import, we need to install few packages. So let's install one by one packages now. Okay, so yarn add, if you're using npm install, absolutely, yarn add. So create an express server, we need express. Okay, and we are going to once the user logged in, we will validate it, and we need to store that user information somewhere. So we are not going to store the information in the Firebase Firestore. We are going to store the information in the Mongoose. That means MongoDB. Okay. So yarn add express. Then we need Firebase. Make sure that spelling everything is correct. Firebase hyphen admin. So Firebase admin. And then we have express Firebase admin. Then we need course, CORS course. Then we need .env. So to create the environment variable, we need this .env. Okay. And we need mongoose. We need this mongoose package to write the MongoDB commands and everything. So mongoose. Then nodemon. So this nodemon will help you to trigger our application. So install it. So let it install. So this will take a while, and I will join you back once it's completed successfully. Okay, then now you can see here my packages, everything is installed successfully. You can see there the course, .env, express, Firebase admin, mongoose, and nodemon. Everything is installed successfully. Now what we need to do is, let's go here to open it. Oh, come on, open it, expand it, and let me go to the MongoDB now. MongoDB, and open here and click sign in. Okay, initially if you're working first time in the MongoDB, use your Gmail account to log in. Okay, so if you are using MongoDB for first time, you need to do quite a few things in your MongoDB over here. You need to create a cluster, and you need to create a database user, and you need to get that application login and everything. Okay, so let me show you one by one. Okay, so here I'm just using my free cluster over here. So initially, if it's not available over here for you, you just need to create a new cluster. If you click this create cluster option, okay, so this is checking, it's loading. I'm not sure, today I'm having internet issue. Okay, so here you can see here what is the cluster you're going to use. You're going to use the Google or AWS or Azure. What is you're going to use, and you can choose your location where you want, and you can check out over here. So tier 1, what is the tier you want to use and everything, because in it you can choose the free tier, but I already create my free tier information. If I already created a free cluster. So this is a paid one. So per hour $0.1 to $0.23 something over here. You can choose the tier and check out all the informations. For free tier, you don't need to check anything, just create the cluster. Okay, once the cluster is done, so let me cancel it. So this will take a time to get load, so you should wait until that it's getting loaded successfully. Okay, and for database access and everything, you need to go to your database access, and here I'm having my own username. So you just need to create a new username for your database. Okay, so click create the new database users, add a password for that, and you can start accessing your database. Once it's done, go to your database. Okay, click here this connect button and connect with application. We are not going to use shell or Compass software which is provided by MongoDB itself. We are going to use the node application. Connect it, Node.js, and what is the version we are using, choose it. Better keep it as it is, and then copy this. This is the string we needed. Okay, we are going to use this connection string in our app. Good. Okay, so now we set up everything. So in this database, I'm already having few collections. Come on, why it's not loading? Yeah, actually I'm having some network issues, I think so. It's taking time. Okay, so now it's loading. I'm already having few informations in the users informations, you can see here. Okay, this is like I practiced it, so I'm already having this information. Cool. Now let's go back. Our MongoDB is done. Let's go back here. Okay, and let's open. We need to create a new file inside this MongoDB. Inside our server. Okay, and inside this server, first I'm going to create app.js. Okay, so app.js. Now inside this app.js, what we are going to have inside this app.js, first I need to create an app. So const express is equals require express. Okay, and then const app is equals express. We are creating an app. Cool. Okay, so then what we need to do is we need to create the we need to check the like a port to listen our app dot listen app dot listen. This should listen to the 4000 port. Okay, if it is start listening, just I'm calling a callback function to console.log it whether it is listening or not. Console.log listening to port 4000. So if it start listening, this will be printed in our console.log. That's cool. And what we need to do is this we need to configure a few changes in our package. Okay, so what I need to do is if I go to my package.log JSON over here, we don't have the scripts to run, right? We don't see any scripts to run. So above these dependencies, we need to create these scripts. So the scripts will get created. Inside the scripts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create developer. If I'm running in the developer mode, then you should trigger node-mon run our file app.js. If I'm simply using the start command start, then okay, add comma then a previous line. If I'm using start command, then you should run node app.js. Okay, mostly in the development we are going to use the developer mode. That's why we install the node-mon app.js. Okay, that's why we install the node-mon package. Okay, node-mon mon. So we configure the scripts and we having everything we needed, dependencies and everything we have over here. That's good. Okay, let's fire it up. CLS and let's say yarn developer deb. So that will triggers our node-mon app.js and it's working fine. And it started listening to our port. Cool. Let's go back here and let me write a route over here. So app.get. If it is a home route, then get the request and the response as a parameter to this function. Okay, so if everything is done, so what I'm going to say, actually here we need to add the comma. Okay, so response.send. Hi there, server is initialized. Cool, the server is get initialized now. Let's go back to our browser and localhost 3000 is running. Localhost 4000 we need to run. Okay, so let me change it to 4000. And look at that. Hi there, our server is initialized successfully. Okay, so every time I can't check the endpoints over here, so that's why I'm going to use the software called Postman. So this is a software really helpful when you're working with API endpoints. So go ahead and install the software, and I already downloaded it and it's running in my machine, and I open it over here. So I'm going to create a new project for this over here. And what I can say is create a new collection and let's say Firebase token collection. So that collection is created. Inside here I'm going to add new request and so now let me wait a second. So this, let me delete it. Later in this project we might add much more routes and everything, right? So I'm going to create a new folder inside here, new folder, and I'm going to rename this folder as user because this is the user endpoints and everything. Inside this I'm going to add a request, and that request is going to be what request we can say as okay, home. And let's go back to the browser, create, and let's go back to our Postman, paste it, and that is the get. If I click send, you should get that hi there message over here. So it's up, it's executing fine now. So let me bring it side by side. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now we don't need every single time to go back to our page, to go back to the browser, and we can run it and verify it over here itself. Okay, so I'll create the request over here, and we will execute it over here. Cool. So now our working setup, everything is done. So next what we need to do is, let me close the terminal. And here now what we need to do is we need to create the routes for users separately. Okay, so we need to create a separate routes for users separately. So to do that, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new route called new folder called routes. For routes, I'm going to create a separate folder. Inside this folder, this is going to be user.js, because this is user route. Anything if it is coming from user endpoints, it should access this file. Okay, to set up that, what we need to do is I'm just going to say const router is equals require express. From the express, we are going to use the router. Okay, this will create the router object. Okay, so router dot get, okay, through the user, if anything is coming through the user, like say slash login from the user endpoints, okay, slash login, if it anything is coming through that endpoint, slash login slash, and this is going to have request comma response, open it. Here I'm just going to send the response as response.send inside user router. Good. Okay, and then we need to export this router, otherwise it will throw an error. So module.exports is equals router. Export it as a router. Okay, so then now what we need to do is go back to the app.js. Okay, this is our home router. Anything which comes over here, it will show this message. But anything if it is coming through user API slash user, if it is coming through that, then it goes to that user router. So this is for user authentications, user authentication. Okay, so what I'm going to say is const user route is equals require from the routes folder, get the users route. Okay, and then use it app.use slash API slash users slash. If anything is coming through, so slash user slash API slash user means if anything, any request is coming through this route, navigate that user to user route. Okay, so that will comes here. And then if I give slash login after it, it will print this route. Looks quite confusing, but you will understand right now. No issues. Okay. So here I'm just going to say, I'll copy this route slash API. So let me remove this and then login. Okay. So login is a get method. If I'm giving send, you can see that now we are inside the user router. So anything is coming through this endpoint, app.js will reroute that router to our user router. So that will goes to the user.js and it will check the next endpoint. What is that? Slash login. If that is a slash login, this will be executed. And that's what's happening over here. Okay, cool. So now everything is working fine as we are expected. Now we need to validate the user token, right? So to validate that user token, what we need to do is we need to create a configuration folder here, config folder. Inside that config folder, what we are going to have, that Firebase config.js. Okay, so we need to get the admin credentials from our browser. So let's create the server over here. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to create the Firebase configuration file, and that's what we are going to do next. Okay, then so now let's go back to our browser first. Okay, go to your project, and where we need to go, come on, let me refresh it. Okay, so here let's go to our users and permission settings. Go there, Okay, and here you can see the service accounts. Click the service accounts. Okay, inside the service account, this is our Firebase admin. We need to use this credential keys, service account key. We need to use it in our server API, backend server. Okay, so just choose our project that is going to be Node.js, and let's generate a new private key. Generate it. So that will gives you the key for that the Firebase admin. So let's go back here, and inside here now what we need to do is let's create a new folder called config. Inside this config folder, I'm just going to create a new file called firebase.config.js. Okay, and let me bring that this token. Okay, so wait a second. We need to keep this token inside our config file. So let me bring this token inside our config folder and rename this token as service account key. Right click, rename, change it, service account key. So this is your account key and private key, every information is over here. So we need to protect this information. So make sure in the git ignore, we need to create a git ignore file, and you need to ignore this file when you're uploading it. Okay, so that will do later. So now we're having the Firebase key, and let me copy this code and paste it over here. Okay, so I will change this var command to const. Okay, so we already installed this package Firebase admin, and this is coming from here. It's coming from slash service account key.json. Okay, and then admin will initialize the app. We'll get the credentials for with our service account, and we need to export this module.export equals admin. We are exporting it as an admin. Cool. So now it will get exported, and then what we need to do is we need to get the token and we need to validate that information. Okay, so let's go back to our app.js. Okay, so to use the later I told you, right, we need to use the environment variables, right? To use the environment variables, we need to add one package, require .env/config. So this will add that env environment files and everything. This will manage all those things so that it's done. Okay, so when you're trying to access it, it will throws the cross origin error. When you're trying to access the API keys and everything, when you're trying to access the API key from the front end to back end, it will throws the cross origin error. To avoid that, only we use the course. Okay, so that I will show you later. Okay, I'll show you later how to handle it and everything. So now let's go back to the Mongoose connection. We need to connect our MongoDB database. Okay, so right after here, I told you we imported we installed one package called Mongoose, right? So we'll use that Mongoose. So that will import the Mongoose database like this. Default Mongoose, require Mongoose. Cool, it's imported. We are going to connect it connect. Okay, here I need to pass that string, right? I need to pass that string. So instead of passing that string over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an environment variable. So right click, in the right click your server, new file .env. Inside this, I'm going to say I'm going to create a database string. db string is equals, let's go to our MongoDB and let's go to the database, connect your application, copy this string and then paste it here, say the changes, and here in this password place type your own password. I'm just giving my password right now, admin. This is not a suitable way to keep a password securely, but for the tutorial I'm just giving as an admin. You should use a strong password. I'll suggest to use a strong password. Okay, so close this, environment variable is done. And here now what we are going to do is we are going to say we need to get that connection string. So process dot env dot db string. So this not shows suggestion, so go back to your env file, copy this and then paste it over here, db string. If you got the db string, this will return a callback function. Inside this callback function, I'm just going to say console.log mongoose connected. So let's stop our server and rerun it, because we added our environment file over there. So now you can see that it's up and running. Cool. Close it, save these changes, and let's make sure whether the MongoDB, yes, now we can see that we having the statement like mongoose is connected. So this will make sure our MongoDB is successfully connected. That means our environment variable is working fine. So we are successfully integrated our MongoDB with our application. Cool. So next, what we need to do, we need to validate our user token, which is going to be interesting, and that's what we are going to do next.